Welcome to this month's favourite session of mine, Yossum Sales Rally Online. So today our topic is street soot. What on earth is street soot? It's something that I came up with after getting a lot of feedback from our clients for the first half of the year. And one of the common threads was, Emma, when you walked in, we went, what on earth are you going to offer us? And then 6 months later, they're raving fans. They're just like, how can we get more of you guys and what you do? So we looked at our sales process and figured out exactly what we do. And do you know what it is? We street soot them. So Anoop's joining us today. He's the head of content for Yossum. Welcome, Anoop.
Thanks, Emma.
Anoop, I'll let you lead into what is street soot.
Great. Well, street soot, and as you said, Emma, that you did come up with this, so even though I love to take credit on a lot of things, this one I will give credit to Emma. Street soot is very simple. Service the shit out of them. It's an acronym for it. I think I really love it. I love it when Emma presented it to me. It's something that we have instilled in the culture of Yossum, is to make sure that we service the shit out of our clients. So very simple, very easy. And sorry if you're offended with that word, but that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, so sorry if there's any offense, but it really does make a difference. So that's why we call it street soot instead of servicing the shit out of them. Now, if anyone does have any questions throughout our quick 30-minute session today, there is a question box within the page that you're watching it from. So please, we love questions. Ask away, and we will endeavour to ask them within the session. If we don't get to it, we'll do an email to you afterwards. So Anoop, let's go through our sales process and work out exactly what we do to, as you said, involve street soot in every part of our process. So what is the first part of our sales process?
Well, first part of the sales process in general, and not even just ours, is that you need to have sort of what we call a compelling scorecard, and the scorecard is basically the essence of what your foundations are built on whether you're winning the game or not. And now you're probably thinking, well, how do I street soot people through a scorecard, which are numbers? Well, why don't you add a number in that looks at the service level? And an interesting example is a lot of big organizations do this, where they actually send a survey out after you purchase something, and they're just checking on, just looking at your service levels and your satisfaction level of how they dealt with you. And that's really what works well. So understanding if the client is at 90% happy, how do we get them to 95? And if they're at 40%, well, how do we get them to 60%? Those incremental changes of understanding the scorecard and the service level that goes attached around it is very, very important. So that's the first part of the sales process, is actually looking at your numbers and the data around that.
So how often should you be aware of your numbers?
Every day. Every day. It was really interesting. I mean, talking about some fresh content, and that's what we're really important with Yossum, is for one of our real defining whys on what we do is actually be a world training organization, but actually make sure that we've got up-to-date content. And one of the things is that I'm always on the lookout. And yesterday I was really, really fortunate to have lunch with a good mate of mine, and his sister used to be one of the head accountants for Kerry Packer and did his personal tax returns. And one thing that was really interesting when you talk about numbers, she said, the reason Kerry Packer was so hugely successful was because when I would go into his office and I would ask him about certain things about numbers, and bang, 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 he knew them off the top of his head. And she, and I won't go on to the comments she's made about what the newer guys do, because I don't want to get anyone involved. But what the point is that Kerry Packer knew his organisation from the front end right through the back end, and knew the numbers like that. And from a sales perspective, the best ones I've worked with are the ones that can rattle off a number and they just don't have to go, oh, let me just check on that. It's like they know it, they live it, breathe it, and know it. So every single day you need to know your numbers.
Yeah, so it really is a numbers game. Even though selling is about relationships, it's still a numbers game.
100%. I mean, without, it's like saying, flying a plane is about transporting people. Yes, it is. There's no point in being able to transport people if you don't know where the hell you're going. The numbers actually tell you that. They tell you where you're failing and where you're succeeding and what you need to keep doing or what you don't need to do. They're your own navigation system. They're your personal guidance system that keeps you on track.
So does it have to be overly complicated with the numbers and, have a 4-page spreadsheet or anything like that? How complicated does it need to be?
Quoting Steve Jobs, make it insanely simple. The simpler it is, the easier it works. Have a 1-page scorecard. Have some major metrics that work for you. Okay, your conversion rates, your average dollar spend, your leads versus in and out, how many in the pipeline, how many are not, what are you losing, where are the leads coming from, what is the service level at the moment. These numbers are very simple. You make them up. Yeah, you can have a whole heap of numbers, you can make it simple, but the simpler the better because it gives you the compelling argument on where you're moving forward.
Yep. And it's one thing to look at the numbers, but there's something else that you taught me really well. And if actually there's a bit of feedback, can you mute yourself when I'm talking?
Sure.
Thanks. That'll make the viewers a bit happier. So yeah, something that Anoop taught me really, really well is it's one thing to focus on your numbers, and that's definitely something we need to do, but it's the activity is where the focus needs to be because that's what you have control of. So Anoop, can you just expand on that a little bit further?
Yeah, very simple. When you talk about activity versus just target, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Okay, so we all know how well to make goals work. And in Stephen Covey and the Covey's training habits of new books of 4 disciplines of execution, they talk about that you need a compelling scorecard, you need a target, but what you also need is what we call lag indicators, or lag indicator is actually, your target. You need leading indicators. You need things that you can control. Very simple. If your target's $1 million, it's simple. You break it down to a monthly monthly target, and then you break that down further into saying, well, in order to achieve that, what do I need to do? Well, if I work with, say, calling 100 prospects a week, and I know I convert 10% of them, or 10% will take my call, and then from there I know 10% will purchase. Well, there is your lead indicator. That's your lead indicator on what works. So look at ways on what is a lead indicator that makes your activity much more tangible and easy to work with. Okay, I can go into a lot more detail around this, but that's a very simple thing. Lead indicators are things you have control over. Lag indicators are targets which you have no control over. So that's how to get real focus and discipline around that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to go into the actual person-to-person angle now of using Street Soot. So we've focused on the numbers and how we can use that to service our clients better and know where we're at. But how do you use Street Soot in the prospecting phase of the sales process?
Well, that's where the whole rapport is starting to be built. And so when we actually start prospecting, they're going to start really buying from you then and there. That's when we actually set the foundations down of what type of organization we really are. Are we a service culture based organization, or are we a Me Too product? We now know for a fact that if you're selling a Me Too product, which means I'm just selling you a product and that's all I want is money from you, well, hey, you know what? Lucky if you're going to be around in another year's time. But from the minute you start prospecting, it's the language you use. It's the way you set the call up, and rather than just going straight into presentation. I mean, it amazes me if you're cold calling and how many people cold call me, and they go straight into the presentation. Okay, find ways of actually being effective in your prospecting that actually delivers more service and value to the customer and client or the prospect than just saying, oh, hey, I just want to talk to you about our product. It's all about solution and building the rapport around that solution and finding the pain from.
And we actually experienced this in a really interesting format last week. We did some research for a white paper and mystery shopped 10 businesses. And we won't go into the numbers now because you can get the white paper later. But it was just a staggering amount who went straight to the Me Too product, didn't they, Anoop?
Oops, sorry, just unmuted myself. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the findings are, I mean, when you guys are going to get this paper out, and we'll do a bit of a video intro on it as well. It was insane that how many people say, oh yeah, I ask questions, and doing this from a case study from 10 people, there wasn't many that did, and you'll see the numbers. It was phenomenal. I was really, really shocked.
Yes, yes. It was actually worse than we expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, a lot worse. So some interesting data coming out of that.
Yes. So when we move from prospecting to, that initial first meeting, proper meeting where we're talking about business and stuff, it can be so easy to launch straight into that Me Too formula of, going straight to the presentation. But how can we use StreetSoot to really keep top of mind that it's important to ask the questions?
And that's it. You've given the answer there. It's important to ask the questions. We are trained from such a young age to be in presentation mode. We're trained in our schools to be able to present. The teacher hands you the assignment and says to you, hey, this is what we're going to do this semester, and you're going to do a presentation, and that's how I'm going to judge you. We are constantly trained around that formula. So, of course, it's natural that that's what we go into. So when we are constantly from the initial contact, we are constantly asked a question. Normally the question is this, and I'd love to have your thoughts on this. If you want to ask a question around this, normally the process is this: tell me what you got. That's the first thing they say. Tell me what you've got. Okay, and what do? Automatically, what we are trying to do is answer a question. Hey, your parents said, answer the question that you've been asked. So what do? We automatically go, and then we go into a presentation mode, and we go into our Me Too mode. This is what we do, this is how we do it, this is how we do it, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? The person then just shuts down. The initial contact is actually lost. Well,
and
why
it's
not be...
so easy to do that, isn't it? Is to go into...
very much. Totally, because we're trained that way, right, Emma? I mean, we all do it.
Yeah.
So why not be very simple and from a perspective of StreetSoot and being able to service the client? Right now you're thinking, how do I service the client on initial contact? Well, here we go. Okay, straight thing is ask the question back and go, you know what, I'd love to tell you what we do, but let me ask you just a quick question if you don't mind. What part of our service or product are you looking for, so I can explain that in much better detail? Now, you've not only got control of the conversation, but you're now getting a service element that's saying, I'm interested in telling you what I do, but I want to know what is it that you're interested in knowing, so I can frame it for you in a much better manner that you will actually want to have value in the conversation that I've just delivered.
Absolutely, and that's such a good point that it just takes that one question to turn the whole dynamic around.
100%.
Yep, so that's a great question. Do you have another little tip that you could share that, just to turn that momentum around so that it is focused back on them rather than presenting?
It's about controlling the level of conversation. Now here, I'll give you a real life example. Now, as much as I like to say I'm good at what I do, and I really do love what I do, I make massive screw ups as well. And one of them was last week. I was down in a meeting with the board of a pretty big organization to do some consulting work for them, and I wasn't prepared, because I was of understanding that this was a briefing conversation. I didn't realize I had to actually deliver a presentation, and I was totally out of control of this conversation because I was getting hammered with these questions like, so what are you going to do? What's your framework? What's your blah 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 blah? So right then there, my mind, my whole fear factor kicked in. Like, I can't do this. This is too difficult. But I changed my breathing pattern very quickly. So I took a couple of deep breaths, and then I actually said to them, "Look, hey, I've got to stop right here, and I've got to apologize that I haven't actually come prepared to present to you because I actually don't know what I'm presenting on." So I understand that what's important is that you want to hear a process, but if I could just ask a few questions, maybe I can give you a little bit of a presentation, but then I can send through a detailed proposal that I can represent to you. So in that case, Emma, what I needed to do was actually get over myself, over my internal dialogue, and take control of the room by actually saying, I'm sorry, I've screwed up. It changes it. Now, I'm talking...
And how did that turn out for you?
Well, look, we're still going to find out what's happening, but now I've re-engaged the conversation with the CEO and the directors to see where it goes, that they're back in communication rather than me just, you know what, I'll be honest with you, and you guys want to see something funny, because I think I'm a seasoned professional. I do this very, very well, and I'm not blowing my trumpet. And I was really angry with myself when I walked out there, because even I was talking some shit that I didn't even know that made sense, right? So it was the first thing was taking responsibility, but actually taking control of that situation. Did Did it go to plan? No, not at all. Will the outcome be favorable? Hey, I don't know. But either way, I've learned something on how to be much more effective in my service orientation and communication in future with these things, is ask questions even before you're going into the meeting. So you're making sure that your contact is giving you as much information. If I knew there was a presentation, I would have been much better prepared.
Going into a meeting like that, though, and being prepared when you don't know much about them, you would obviously include a whole heap of questions at the beginning of your presentation and then be a bit of a chameleon around it as well to deliver the presentation around what they need.
Emma, one of the biggest things the biggest mistake I made out of this was I didn't set the agenda of the meeting. So even though I knew enough, I didn't know that much, and if I would have known there was a presentation, and even if I would have had the presentation ready, I should have set the agenda from the minute I walked in and said, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do today is I want to show you an outcome that's going to be hopefully favorable, but before I do that, can I ask you some questions so it all makes sense when I present my final proposal or present part of the proposal that I'm thinking of, to see that we're on the right track. That would have set the foundations for the conversation to move forward. I didn't do that. It was disorientated, I got confused, and then that confusion led to mass confusion through the meeting.
But you did take back that control.
Yes, by the end of it, the control was taken back, and you know, like I said, the lines of communication are reopened, and I've reset that conversation.
Yep, that's a really good learning for all of us. Thank you so much for sharing that and being so authentic about it. Because just that tip of, you know, we do, when we get asked the hard questions, we tend to go into either justify mode or straight into presentation mode, or even worse, just go straight in for the price. But that tip of, you know, taking a step back, taking a breath, and then asking a question and being upfront that, you know, you weren't prepared for what they expected. Yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's move on to the next section. We've sort of covered initial contact and asking questions together, but if we can focus on the asking questions bit, and there's such a fine line when delivering in a sales meeting between interrogation and interested questions.
Yes, yes.
What is that fine line with Street Soot?
With Street Soot, you're looking at, remember, we're servicing the shit out of them, that we want to be able to get them to really understand where we're coming for them. So always consider one thing when you're asking questions, that they're thinking, what's in it for me? So when you're asking questions, make sure that they're a combination of open and closed questions. If you keep asking open questions, the conversation is just going to keep going round and round. If you ask closed questions, it's going to sound like you're interrogating. If you ask a balance of both questions, you're going to move the conversation forward. So, you know, Emma, tell me, what's the biggest challenge you're having at the moment? Well, you know what, the service orientation of the company that we're working with is no good. How do you find their products? The products are not bad, but we hate the fact that they don't call us back with things, blah, 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 blah. Great. Now, right then and there, you can easily go into a presentation, right, and start saying, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. No, just shut the hell up for a second and get clarification. And say, you know, hey, I'm really hearing what you're saying, because there are organisations like that. Can I ask you a few more questions around that? What this starts to do is it builds the basis of a rapport and a better understanding of what the client's looking for, so you can put a better service agreement, a better service orientation for that customer. Now, you might find somebody saying, oh, well, they talk to us too much. Okay, well, how many times do you want to be spoken to? So that level, so the thing is, you see, we can easily say the service is universal. It's not. Service is what the customer deems as the most professional way of moving forward. Like, I'm a customer that doesn't need a lot of service. I just would like from time to time somebody to touch base with me. Whereas sometimes somebody may be a little bit more needy. So how are you reorientating the way you deal with them? Okay, and that's where the power in questions becomes very, very effective in knowing how to present the product, how to present the brand, how to present the company, and more importantly, how to present the follow-up and follow-through, and what becomes your vital service component.
Which is why, you were just saying about customized stuff, and being a bit of a, my words, chameleon, and really presenting around what your client is needing. We're really moving into an age of customization with sales people, aren't we?
Oh, 100%. You know, there was a report that just came out last week, which was really, really interesting, that was actually done by American Express. I consider American Express one of the best service-orientated cultures in the world. I've got a couple of American Express cards, and everyone, you know, people do say, oh, you know, you pay extra for it and this and that. No, yeah, you do, but I will value the service over the couple of dollars service fee that every time I have to use an Amex card. And there's one reason for that. You see, Amex isn't a matter of, even when they cold call me for a new product, the first thing they do is, Mr. Anshel, is it a good time to talk to you? Now that is brilliant. That is one fantastic question to ask me, because they understand that my time is valuable. All right. And secondly, every time I call Amex for an issue, I have somebody who's going to deal with it right then and there, rather than give me the runaround. And that's powerful. That's really important for me. Okay, so what they found in this study was that even though, like, in this age where we're hearing businesses doing cost cuttings, cost cutting is only a simple measure for now that gives you a result. For the long term, it's the wrong measure to take. It gets the ship back on track, but what you need to be doing is looking at your service culture within your organization, and especially in your sales organization, because a lot of salespeople are too hungry for the new sale, and then they don't deliver the added value of service, which really gets the person to become a raving fan rather than just a customer of a one or two purchase.
And it leads back, like that customization thing, it really is ingrained in the culture of the company, and you know how they set up their sales process from the beginning. If you give a sales team one or two options, they can't customize that for their clients.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so it comes down to their training, what products they have to offer, and how much trust that the company has in the sales team as well.
It's exactly right. Exactly right. Trust is a big, big thing.
Yes, yes. And which is interesting, because generally people don't trust salespeople.
No. Why should they? Really? Why should they? A lot of them are in it for themselves. No.
Yeah, yes. So that's an interesting little side topic. But now we're going to move on to the supporting and presenting stage, that now you're actually allowed to present. But there's definitely a way to street soot present or not street soot present. So would you mind sharing your views on that, Anoop?
Well, the way a lot of people present without the street soot principles around it is they do this, is they go, okay, I got you, I see your pain, I see what you need, I've got your needs and wants, and bang, hey, you know, this is what we can do for you. Because, you know, they'll either present too early, or they'll wait and pretend to have listened, but then they still have their own agenda on presenting. Okay, so that's generally what then tends to happen. A street soot way of presenting is that you've actually listened, and you will actually reaffirm and confirm what the conversation has been, and it will go around like, so really what I'm hearing, or what I'm listening, or what I can see is that's important for you is this and this. All right, rather than jumping into, hey, I've got this, which gets too excited. Remember, if you get too excited in front of a prospect or a client, they're going to go, I'm a bit nervous now. Whereas if you go, hey, you can control the tempo and say, look, I really get where you're coming from. Can I just reiterate, this is what I'm hearing? Yes, that's exactly what you're hearing. So what that does is it confirms to the person one thing, that you just listen to them. From the street soot perspective, it also says when you're listening to me, you're actually going to deliver me the best possible outcome and service. And then you present. And then you say, hey, look, with what you just mentioned, this is how we believe we can help you out. How does that sound? And that's how simple the presentation can be. It doesn't need to be like a 50-page report or a 100 slide PowerPoint presentation. It can be just as simple as that, by reconnecting the one thing that your product or service can do with what they're looking for, and bang, away you go. And at that point in time, which I know we'll go into the next part, is handling the objection. Is the reason you want to keep it concise is because you want to rip out the objection from them there and then, if there is any.
So can you expand on that a little bit, Anoop?
What, the objection part? Or
yeah.
Right. So the simpler you put the presentation. So let's say, for instance, I'll do something very random. I'm looking for a set of fine china. Okay, why do I pick that? Because it's a total random topic. So we find out, what type of cutlery they're after, what type of porcelain, what type of grade, is there a design, and we do all that, and we find in the reasons why. Can I ask you why you're after that type of design? Well, it goes with the new tablecloths I bought in the decor around the house. Great, so I see. So what's really important for you is that this china is placed within the decor and the actual look that you have in your house at the moment. Yes, that's really important for me. And then we may ask a couple of questions around how many times they're going to use it, and and what type, and we build a rapport around that. Then when we come to the presentation and we say, okay, so what's important is this type of thing, these colors, this type of design, and so forth. Yes, exactly. Hey, let me show you 2 options that I believe will work for you. Here's option 1, bang, 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 and you then go through the feature, benefits, and feelings, which is a very simple process. Describe the feature, describe the benefit, and add the feeling around the components of the questions, and then option 2, and then get them to make a decision. And at that time, they're going to go, when they're looking at it, and then you go, what do you think? Is there anything else that we haven't covered? There you might get the objection right there. You go, that's great, but I wish there was this color or this or that. That's what makes it much more powerful. Then, because then you're not getting the objection later on. It flows into process.
Okay, so that is an awesome example, and I'd love to see you, Anoop, having a cup of tea in fine china. Yeah, but that was a really good example, and how it flows from the presenting to the handling objections section. There is no defining line, is it? Is there?
No, and this is the thing. The beauty of the Yossum the projects that we do with the coaching that we give around sales, it's the process has to be seamless. It shouldn't start and stop. It should be a conversation that is seamless. It's not like, okay, now I've had initial contact, let me talk to you about some questions. Okay. No, we're not robots, right? And let's face facts. With all the technology that will come out, they'll never make a robot to replace the salespeople. Right? I believe that.
Yes.
So the thing is, it should flow. It should be natural. It should go one to another to another. It's not start and stop. And if you've set it up well, it will flow nicely, and you'll be able to handle an objection before they've even realized they've got an objection. That's the power of it.
And now we are at the critical point. We've got 2 minutes to go before the end of this session, and we are at the critical point both in this session and in the sales process, and this is where most people stop, the follow-up and follow-through. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, the closing, follow-up, and follow-through. So very simple. If you've handled the objections, it's a matter of now saying, hey, look, can we get some paperwork done, or can I lead you to the counter? Can I, how would you like to fix this up? Using those sort of powerful, positive words rather than, can I strip out your credit card of all the money it's got so then you get interest later on? You know what I mean? Think of the words that we use. And then it's the last part is where this is where Street Soot just engages in full act, is the follow-up and follow-through. This is the part where it's missed off. This is what we call the 1 millimeter. This is where if you're a golfer, you change your grip by 1 mil. You don't hit the ball at 150 yards. You hit it at 250 yards because that can make such a big difference. The simple thing is, after a person's made a purchase, are you checking in with them? Are you following them up and following them through? Are you making sure that they're happy? Are you doing your own little survey to see how you could have done something better or different? And the Street Soot perspective is what are you doing to service them and service their needs later on? Did you take notes down in the final closing that they might have been interested in another product, but they didn't want to buy it then and there, that maybe you touch base touch with them in a week or two and say, hey, look, I hope that the china you're happy with and that it's been to your satisfaction. You did mention that you were after a couple of jugs and things like that. What I just want to let you know is that we've either got a special offer on them, or if you're still interested in them, we've got, I've put them aside for you, that if you'd like to pop back in. It shows that you listened above and beyond than what was just the requirement.
And the sad thing is that amazing follow-up surprises people, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Which is a huge opportunity for all the salespeople out there to really look at their sales process, take what we've talked about today, and apply Street Soot. Even if, as Anoop said, it's just that 1 millimeter change in each of those sections that we went over today, it's going to make a massive difference by the end of the year, and it'll make a massive difference to every single client.
Yeah.
Now, Anoop, this is our beginning of month G-up for everyone, for all those salespeople out there. Do you mind just sharing a quick 45-second, what do we need to focus on in September to make it an amazing month and to round out the end of the year?
Yeah, sure. Look, simple. We're in the last month of the third quarter. If you're following what we do, we work on quarters. So what is going to be your initial focus? Is it something that you've taken away today that says, hey, this month I'm really going to work on, street sooting my customers? Is that what you're going to look at? The street soot is cleaning out the crap and bringing in the new, right? So you got to look at what is a new way to do that. So the G-up for you guys, what I would say is, take a simple little focus. Make it, make it service. Service is something that is so simple yet not done in a very simple manner, or not done at all. Okay, how can you bring in more value to your client than just the product alone? Think of yourselves that way. Ask yourself that question and make a powerful month, because we're going into the final quarter, and it's, this is it. We're not far off till the end of the year, and are we playing hard now to set that final quarter up for real impactful Christmas break?
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Anoop. I will leave you to your cup of tea in the fine china.
Very
great content as always. I've certainly learnt a lot and taken quite a few notes, so I'll do a new blog post this afternoon so people can recap. This will be replayed for 48 hours, so if you know anyone that could really benefit from applying Street Soot to their sales process, then certainly send them over and they can watch it and get a couple of free gifts and all that sort of stuff. So we'll be back in October with another round of the Yossum Sales Rally, and other than that, have a great month, and we'll see you back here next month. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.